Okay, so I got a question. Wouldn't that mean what was that question exactly? Let me see. Well, we got a bunch of scriptures to go through when dealing with day and night. Not really. I'm I'm gonna condense it. But right here, what do we have? I like Exodus 10 and 13 right there. But let me see. Okay, can you explain why they say the Sabbath is from sunup Saturday to sundown Saturday? If the new day starts at sunup, shouldn't the Sabbath be over the sunup Sunday? And that answer is no, because we call it the Sabbath day. And when the Almighty separated day and night, He had the light rule of day and the darkness rule of night. Therefore, when the sun went down, it was no longer day. One of the best examples is Passover, because it never says the day of Passover, because Passover happened at night. At evening, you were sacrificing in at night. And that's one of the good things about day and night. If the day started at evening, then the Passover would be the same time as the Feast of Unleavened Bread. But we know that, and we're going to talk about that, but we know that the Passover happened on the 14th day at evening, and on the 15th day was the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is when that sun came up. So as we see right here in Exodus 10 and 13, it says, and when it was morning. So Moses stretched out his staff over Egypt, and the Lord made all the east wind blow across the land all that day and all that night. By morning, the wind had brought the locusts. So at the time, it was the morning. It said pillar of fire by night. Neither pillar of cloud by day nor pillar of fire by night left its place in front of the people. We see that the pillar of fire was there by night. It was a cloud by day, a pillar of fire by night. Now, you said that would the Sabbath be over? The Sabbath day will be over. He said celebrate the Sabbath day. Now, that night, the Sabbath night is not to be celebrated. It never said Sabbath night. But right here, the pillar of, you know what I mean? So right here, 40 days and 40 nights. We can get to some real good ones. Okay. He says all that day and all that night. Things like Samuel fell the length on the ground, filled with fear because Samuel's words, his strength was gone, for he had eaten nothing all that day and all that night. Now we have let me see a really good example. We got Passover here. All these are good examples. Passover being the 14th day, you can really beat him up at the evening on the Passover. All right. But right here in First Samuel 30 and 17 says evening till the evening of the next day. So he said David fought them from dusk until the evening of the next day. Okay. So basically, let you know the evening is not the beginning of the day. Okay, here goes a good example here. Numbers 11 and 20 and 32. And it says, and the people stood up all that day, all that night, and all the next day, and they gathered the quails. So how long did they stand up? Well, let's just say a day and night. We're gonna call them 12 hours. All that day, all that night, all the next day will be 36 hours. Here goes some New Testament ones that I think I'm gonna do for the next one. I'm gonna leave that for the next what's the name. But right here, we're seeing many different the Passover being the 14th day, the Passover between twilight and the 14th day of the first month. Okay, so if you believe the day starts at evening, then you would have to believe the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread are the same thing and start at the same time. And what you'll find out is that the Passover was the day we had to stay in the house because of the angel of death. We could not come out. But the Feast of Unleavened Bread was a holy convocation where we all would have to gather together. So they were two separate events, but some people just don't understand the scriptures. So they don't know the difference between day and night. But no, Yes, the next day would start, but the Sabbath has ended at sundown. And Sabbath just means rest. It can be a year Sabbath. Even when it talks about starting your Sabbath, we'll talk about the Day of Atonement, the ninth day at evening. You start your Sabbath that time, but the Day of Atonement does not start until the 10th day or when the sun comes up. Yeah, the ninth day at evening, when the sun is going down on the ninth day, you start your Sabbath for the Day of Atonement. But it is not till that sun comes up the following day, is at the 10th day, or the 10th day begins. So we see day and night are opposite. One thing they try to do, which is they confuse themselves, but they like to say that evening had to happen first. They say that when it was totally dark and darkness was on the face of the earth, that was evening. But that was not evening. That was dark, total darkness. If you want to call it night, you can. But the question that I always ask them is, what came first, morning or evening? And I put this question to them. I said, what is morning? What is evening? They try to change evening into total darkness, but it's not. It's the opposite of morning. And what is morning? It is darkness going into light. What is evening? It is light going into darkness. So I asked the fellow, because we know about let there be light. And I said, don't you have to cut the light on before you cut it off? So you would have to have a morning before evening. But I'm gonna continue this with you got to have a morning. So he said that evening was first, or the day started evening, but no, you had to transition from dark to light first. If it was total darkness at the beginning, we're not trying to say what was first, night or day. We're not going to argue that. We're not going to argue if night or day was first, but we're going to say when was the first day, and was it morning or evening that happened first? Now, when it said let there be light, that is morning. We got to remember day and night are different than morning and evening. And that's, I can elaborate on this all day. I'm just going to leave it at that.